Good morning, friends. I want to talk to you today about possibility, about purpose, about the power God has already placed inside you. And I want to do it through a name, Myron Golden. Not because we're here to praise a man, but because we're here to understand a mindset. Myron Golden didn't wait for perfect conditions to succeed. He didn't wait until the stars lined up or until everything was handed to him. No, he chose to believe that purpose is more powerful than circumstance. And I want you to know something today. You have a purpose too. You weren't placed on this earth by accident. You weren't born into your family, your town, your struggle, your situation by mistake. You were placed there by a design far bigger than anything we can see. You were made to matter. You see, Myron faced adversity just like many of you do. He had reasons to doubt himself. He could have settled, but he didn't. Why? Because he understood a deep, eternal truth. God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. And you are called. Purpose is more powerful than circumstance. It's easy to look at where you are, what you've been through, or what you don't have, and think that you're disqualified from doing something meaningful in this life. Many people get stuck in that loop, waiting for things to get better before they start believing in themselves. They wait for the debt to clear, the relationship to mend, the body to heal, or the fear to vanish before they take action. But that's not how purpose works. Purpose doesn't show up once your life is perfect. Purpose is what gives you strength in spite of the imperfections. When someone walks in purpose, their external conditions no longer define their internal direction. Think of all the great people who started with nothing, who came from brokenness, from poverty, from pain. What made them different wasn't that they were lucky or talented, it was that they believed something bigger was guiding them. They trusted that their life had meaning beyond their current mess, and that belief gave them the strength to rise above their circumstance. Circumstance will always try to tell you who you are. It will try to box you in, label you, remind you of your limitations, and tempt you to settle. But purpose speaks a different language. Purpose reminds you that you're not defined by what you're going through. You're defined by what you're here to do. When you begin to understand that, you no longer let temporary situations dictate your permanent identity. So many people wait for everything to align before they take action. But if purpose only worked in ideal conditions, none of the greatest success stories would exist. Purpose thrives in adversity. It is forged in struggle. The moment you choose to believe in the calling on your life, your circumstance becomes irrelevant. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what am I supposed to learn from this? Circumstances are changeable. They come and go. They are seasonal. But your purpose is eternal. It was placed inside you before you were even born. You didn't earn it. You didn't manufacture it. You don't get to cancel it just because things got hard. That purpose was placed there by design. And once you begin to live out of that truth, you become unstoppable. Not because life gets easier, but because you get clearer. Purpose gives you perspective. It reframes your struggle as training, your waiting as preparation, your wounds as wisdom. It doesn't ignore your pain, but it gives your pain context. It gives your setbacks strategy. You begin to realize that what you thought was holding you back was actually shaping you for what's ahead. That's the kind of power purpose brings. It's also why two people can go through the exact same hardship and come out with completely different outcomes. One person gets bitter, the other gets better. One loses hope, the other finds fuel. The difference isn't the event, it's the belief. It's the internal decision to say, this may be what I'm facing, but it's not who I am. My circumstances don't get to write my story, my purpose does. This truth changes everything. Because once you anchor your identity and purpose, you stop being reactive and start being intentional. You stop waiting for a break and start becoming the breakthrough. You stop chasing comfort and start choosing growth. That's the power of knowing your life has meaning. When you wake up every day knowing there's a reason you're still breathing, you stop being intimidated by life and start influencing it. You weren't made to simply survive your circumstances. You were made to lead through them. You are called not by chance, but by design. There's nothing accidental about your existence. No part of your life is a random event. You were created with intention, with a specific purpose planted inside you before you ever took your first breath. That truth changes everything. When you realize you were called by design, you stop living like you're just trying to make it through another day, and you start living like your life matters, because it does. Most people struggle not because they lack talent, skill, or opportunity, but because they've forgotten or never been told that they were created for something greater. They've let life wear them down, and slowly they've started to believe the lie that they're just one more person in the crowd, easily replaceable, barely noticed, and mostly forgotten. But a calling isn't something you stumble into. It's something that's built into the very fabric of who you are. You are wired for it. You are formed with it in mind. The way you think, the way you see the world, your passions, your struggles, they're all pointing to that calling. To be called means there is a voice that calls to you, a purpose that whispers in the quiet, a direction that stirs your heart even when logic tells you to ignore it. When you're called, you feel it deep in your bones. It may not always make sense. It may not always be convenient, but it's real. That calling doesn't disappear when things get hard. In fact, difficulty often reveals it. Life has a way of pressing on us until what's truly inside starts to rise. And what rises, if we let it, is the reminder that we were made on purpose for a purpose. Design implies that nothing about you is wasted. Your story, your pain, your gifts, your mistakes, your victories, all of it is part of the blueprint. When a builder designs a structure, every inch is intentional. The foundation is laid with precision. The framework is measured carefully. Nothing is slapped together at random. That's how your life has been constructed. You may not see the full plan yet. You may be standing in the middle of something that feels incomplete. But that doesn't mean there's no design. It means you're still under construction. You don't need to have all the answers to trust the process. You don't need to see the whole map to keep moving forward. A calling doesn't demand clarity, it demands trust. It invites you to believe that your life matters even when the evidence hasn't shown up yet. That's the power of being called by design. You don't have to prove your worth, you just have to accept it. You don't have to fight for significance. You already have it. And when you truly understand that, you stop measuring yourself against others because you realize you were never meant to copy someone else's calling. Comparison kills calling. It convinces you that you're too late, too flawed, too behind, but design doesn't work like that. No two callings are the same, just like no two fingerprints are the same. Your path is unique because your purpose is unique, and when you step into that, you stop being distracted by what others are doing and start being faithful to what you were born to do. Sometimes the calling feels too big. Sometimes it feels too far away. But if you feel it tugging at you, pulling you forward, that's not your imagination. It's your design speaking. It's the reason you can't shake certain dreams, why you feel restless in certain spaces, why you long for something more. That's purpose trying to break through the noise. It's not a coincidence. It's not a fantasy. It's the truth of your identity trying to wake you up. You weren't just created to exist. You were created to make a difference. Not later, now. And not by accident, but with purpose stitched into every part of your being. God qualifies the called, not the other way around. This is one of the most freeing truths a person can embrace. So often, people disqualify themselves before they even start. They look at their past, their flaws, their lack of credentials or experience, and they assume they're not good enough to step into anything meaningful. They wait until they feel ready, polished, worthy, and put together, but that's not how it works. God doesn't wait for you to become perfect before he uses you. He steps into your imperfections and calls you anyway. When you're called, your resume doesn't matter as much as your response. The world might look at your qualifications, but God looks at your availability. He looks at your heart, your willingness, your obedience. He sees beyond what you think you're capable of and instead sees what he already placed inside you. That means you don't have to check all the boxes before you move forward. You don't have to wait for approval from the world when you've already been chosen by the one who created it. Throughout history, the pattern is clear. Time and again, the ones who were chosen to do great things weren't the most obvious choices. They were often overlooked, underestimated, or completely dismissed, but they were called, and because they were called, they were qualified, not by their own strength, but by God's power working through them. The qualification came after the calling, not before. That flips everything upside down. It means that every excuse we give, too young, too old, too broken, too uneducated, too far gone, gets dismantled. Because it was never about perfection, it was always about purpose. The moment you realize this, your whole outlook changes. You stop disqualifying yourself based on human standards. You stop thinking you need more time or more accolades to begin. Instead, you recognize that the calling itself is the qualification. If God called you, that's proof he's going to equip you. The skills, the strength, the wisdom, they come along the way. Growth happens in motion, not before it. You step out in faith, and the tools show up as you go. That's the beauty of divine design. Fear likes to whisper that you're not ready. It reminds you of everything you're not. But calling isn't based on fear. It's rooted in faith. You're not asked to have it all figured out. You're asked to say yes. And that yes is powerful. That yes activates things you didn't even know were inside you. It opens doors that don't make sense on paper. It draws resources, connections, and moments into your life that you could never orchestrate on your own. Because when God qualifies the called, he also prepares the way. You don't need to fake it or force it. You just need to be faithful. You need to show up even when you feel unprepared, even when your knees are shaking, even when doubt is screaming in your ear. That's where transformation happens. That's where your confidence is built, not in having all the answers, but in trusting the one who does. Every time you choose to move forward despite your uncertainty, you step deeper into the strength that's already been made available to you. And it's easy to admire others who seem to have it all together, but don't be fooled. Most of them didn't start that way. They just chose to believe that their calling mattered more than their insecurity. They chose to believe that if God brought them to it, he would bring them through it. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. That's walking in the truth that qualification is not earned, it's given. It's not based on a checklist of accomplishments. It's based on a relationship with the one who calls you forward. Your story has value. Don't hide it. The experiences you've lived through, the moments you thought would break you, the struggles you've overcome, the lessons you've learned in silence, none of it is wasted. Everything you've walked through has shaped something in you. And while it may feel easier to cover it up, to tuck it away, and pretend it never happened, there's someone out there right now who needs exactly what you carry. The very thing you want to hide could be the exact thing someone else needs to hear to find hope again. We live in a world that's obsessed with image. It's easy to believe the lie that only the polished parts of our lives are worth showing, that unless it's perfect, it has no value. But real connection, real impact doesn't come from perfection. It comes from authenticity. People aren't moved by how flawless you look. They're moved by how honest you're willing to be. And the truth is, your story, the raw, unedited version, is powerful. Not because it's pretty, but because it's real. It's been lived, it's been fought for, it's been survived. There's power in vulnerability. There's strength in saying, this is where I was, and this is where I am now. You're not bragging when you tell your story, you're building bridges. You're giving others permission to feel seen, to feel heard, to believe that change is possible. When you share your journey, you're lighting the way for someone else who's still in the dark. You're saying, you're not alone. I've been there too. Too many people carry shame around their past, thinking it disqualifies them from speaking up, but shame loses its power when it's exposed to light. When you stop hiding your story, you stop feeding the lie that you have something to be ashamed of. What once felt like a curse can become a calling. What once brought you pain can now be used to bring others peace. But it only works if you're willing to speak it. The value of your story isn't measured by how dramatic or glamorous it is. It's measured by the transformation within it. Maybe your story is quiet. Maybe your breakthroughs happen behind the scenes without an audience. That doesn't make them any less powerful. Sometimes the most impactful stories are the ones told in whispers, shared over coffee, or typed into a message when someone is at their lowest. It's not about how many people hear it. It's about who needed to hear it at the exact right moment. There's also healing in the telling. When you share your story, you often find that parts of you start to heal in new ways. You begin to see your journey not as a random collection of events, but as a narrative with purpose. The dots begin to connect. The pain starts to make sense, and the identity that once felt fractured starts to come together. That's the gift of reflection. That's the gift of owning your truth. You're not doing anyone a favor by pretending everything's always been easy. What people need most is permission to be human, to wrestle, to doubt, to fall, and get back up again. Your story gives them that permission. It reminds them that growth is messy, that healing takes time, and that faith isn't always loud. It's sometimes just choosing to keep going. What you've been through carries weight. It carries wisdom. It carries insight that someone else might be desperate for, but they'll never receive it if you keep it buried. They'll never benefit from your testimony if you keep it behind a wall. Service fuels sustainable success. In a world that constantly pushes the idea that success is about how much you can gain, how far you can go, and how many people know your name, the truth often gets overlooked. Real, lasting success doesn't come from chasing personal glory. It comes from meeting a need. It's found in what you give, not just in what you get. When your drive is connected to helping others, your momentum doesn't run out because your motivation comes from something deeper than ambition. It comes from purpose. Success that is built only on self-interest is fragile. It burns fast and fades quickly. But when success is rooted in service, it becomes sustainable. It's no longer about how much you can accomplish for yourself, but how much impact you can make in the lives of others. That kind of success has depth. It has soul. It endures because it's not just about you, it's about who you lift as you climb. When you shift your focus from self-centered goals to serving others, everything changes. Your work gains meaning, your challenges gain context, your wins become shared victories. The pressure to perform turns into a desire to contribute. Suddenly the journey is no longer just about reaching a destination, it's about how many people you can bring along the way. That's when your success stops being a race and starts becoming a mission. Service doesn't mean you think less of yourself. It means you think beyond yourself. It means you use what you have, your experiences, your gifts, your story, your resources, to elevate someone else. And the beautiful part is, when you serve from a genuine place, success often follows as a natural result. People are drawn to those who genuinely want to help. Doors open when you walk with integrity. Opportunities appear when your heart is in the right place. There's a kind of fulfillment that only comes from giving. It's the kind that doesn't need applause, doesn't seek validation, and isn't tied to status. It's internal, quiet, steady. It's the satisfaction of knowing that your time on this earth is being used to make something better for someone else. That's the kind of success that legacy is built on. Not just what you did for yourself, but what you inspired, what you healed, what you gave, and who you empowered. Some of the most impactful people are the ones who never chased titles or platforms. They just kept showing up, helping where they could, and staying faithful to the call. That kind of consistency is powerful. It doesn't always get celebrated publicly, but it creates a ripple effect that touches more lives than you'll ever know. And in the long run, that's what people remember. Not the numbers, not the status, but the way you made them feel, the way you showed up, the way you cared. You don't have to be famous to be effective. You don't have to be wealthy to be generous. You don't have to have it all together to serve. Sometimes the most powerful way you can serve is by simply being present, listening, encouraging, or sharing what you've learned along the way. It's not about having all the answers. It's about being willing to walk with someone while they find theirs. When you serve from your calling, from your truth, from your story, it resonates on a level that success alone never could. Because service reaches places that ambition can't. It touches hearts. It changes perspectives. It builds community. And it reminds you that the work you do isn't just about results. It's about people. It's about impact. It's about legacy. If you're breathing, your mission isn't over. Every breath in your lungs is proof that you still have a role to play, a life to influence, a purpose to fulfill. So often people disqualify themselves because of age, mistakes, missed opportunities, or how long it's taken them to get where they are. But the fact that you're still here means there's still something on earth only you can do. You haven't been forgotten, overlooked, or shelved. You've been preserved for now. There's a lie that whispers to people that their best days are behind them, that it's too late to start over, too late to dream again, too late to make a difference. But purpose is not confined to age or stage. It doesn't retire. It doesn't expire. It lives inside of you as long as you're alive. If you woke up this morning, it's because there's still more inside you that needs to come out. There's still someone who needs your voice, your wisdom, your experience, your presence. You may feel tired. You may feel like too much time has passed or that you've missed too many chances. But God doesn't measure time the way we do. What looks like delay to us often looks like preparation to him. Every season you've lived through has shaped something essential inside you. The lessons you've learned, the healing you've walked through, the setbacks you've survived, they've all equipped you for what's next. Nothing has been wasted, not a single moment. It's easy to look around and compare your timeline to someone else's, to wonder why they got their breakthrough earlier or why your path has taken longer. But the mission on your life is unique. Comparison doesn't apply to calling. You weren't designed to follow someone else's pace. You were designed to walk in your own purpose, in your own time, for your own impact. And the beautiful thing is, your mission doesn't need to look like anyone else's to be meaningful. There are people only you can reach. There are conversations only you can have. There are hearts that will only open because of your story, your way, your words. It's not a small thing. That's a divine assignment. And if you try to shrink it, if you try to talk yourself out of it, you're not just limiting yourself. You're leaving someone else waiting, because purpose doesn't happen in isolation. Your mission is always connected to others. Someone is depending on your obedience. They don't need a stage to make an impact. You don't need a platform or a title or a large following. You just need to be present and willing. Some of the most powerful missions are carried out in everyday moments. In conversations, in kindness, in courage, in consistency. It's not always about doing something big. It's about doing something faithful. And faithfulness stacks. It builds something lasting over time. Something strong, something that matters. So if doubt is creeping in, if fear is whispering that it's too late or too little, remember this: your breath is your confirmation. You're still in the game. You're still needed. There's still more in you. And sometimes the most significant chapters are written later than expected. Sometimes the mission gets clearer as you walk. Sometimes you realize the struggle wasn't the end, it was the training ground. It built the resilience and wisdom you need for what's coming. You don't have to have it all figured out to take the next step. You don't have to feel confident to be committed. You just have to say yes. You just have to keep breathing and keep moving, even if it's slow, even if it's quiet. There's power in persistence. There's purpose in showing up again and again, especially when no one else sees it. That kind of obedience shapes the future. It carries weight. It matters.